I'm going to take a call from Xavier, not Javier. Xavier. Xavier is a guy coming out of Florida who's asking, who are you to deny Muhammad and Paul's experience, but accept transgender experiences and identities? Oh boy. Happy Pride Month, folks. Who am I? Well, I've covered this. There's even a clip of me ranting about it. But Xavier, how you doing? Happy Pride Month. How you doing?
Hello, happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month. Who am I to deny it? Well, I don't deny any of that stuff. But I don't believe that what Muhammad and Paul experienced was supernatural. First of all, I'm not entirely sure that Muhammad really existed. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure that Paul existed, but assuming that they were, I believe that if they existed and they were the people who are responsible for the writings that are ascribed to them, and it's honest, there's a lot of assumptions here, that they perceived something. They had let me take it back, perceived. They had a phenomenon. They had a mental moment where they experienced something, all right? And they said that was supernatural, had a supernatural origin, and that therefore the supernatural exists, and it exists in a certain way. Okay, that's that. They're making a claim about the outside universe, okay, about the nature of metaphysics and physics and reality and all that stuff, making an affirmative claim. A transgender person is not claiming to have a certain sex reality. They're claiming to have a certain internal gender reality, okay? They're not saying that they were born with certain gametes coming out of them, that they have certain chromosomes coming out of them. They are saying that this is their identity, that gender, the construct of gender, gals have long hair, and guys have short hair, and gals are feminine, protecting type of people, or whatever the gender roles might be, whatever it is. And it's not for me to say, but whatever those roles are, whatever those categories of qualities that belong to the category of masculine and those that belong to the feminine, that these folks don't, it doesn't resonate with them. It seems unnatural. It's a reporting of an internal state. Okay? And just like Katie Montgomery has said, it's like left-handedness, right? When someone says that they are transgender, or that they're left-handed, or that coffee cake tastes good to them, better yet, coffee. I hate coffee. Prove that I hate coffee. Prove that I can't stand the taste of coffee. Why the hell do you think I drink this stuff? Because I don't like coffee, and I got to wake up, okay? So when a person reports to you that they have a certain internal state, right? I'm not making a claim about the source of the internal state or whatever it might be, but it's authentic. And so we just believe them. Long answer, Xavier. What are thy responses to that?
I had some points too, but
I would say, does Armani want to talk?
Uh-oh.
No, Can I just quickly mention something? If Muhammad and Paul, I met them and they said that, and a trans person, they all say that this is their experience. It's easy for me to believe all three of them that they had that experience. Okay, if Muhammad said I had this met Muhammad and he told me that I had this experience, that God talked to me, it's easy for me to believe that he had that experience. The difficult part is whether that experience reflects, an Allah that really exists. People experience revelations all the time. That is not that is not the extraordinary claim that, so the existence of those experiences, I'm fully willing to admit that, those or if I met Paul and he said, look, I actually saw Jesus, it's easy for me to accept that he had that experience. He saw something, he felt something, where what he saw reflects an objective reality outside of his mind, that is the hard part that I need more evidence than his claim to believe in.
Yeah, and Xavier, sorry for suggesting that you were complaining. I'm just so used to it with some of our callers. You're a better caller. Xavier, Armin makes a good point. What about you? What's your responses to those things? I want to hear from you.
Yeah, it seems like I don't want to invalidate any transgender's experience. I'm not like that at all. I just want to say that up front. And I'm glad for Pride Month and them being valued as people and all of that. So, yeah. But my point is that you're asking for evidence from religious people, but you don't ask for evidence of transgender people. So I think it's a double standard against religious people. And so I just
no. I don't ask for evidence. Again, I don't ask for evidence for the experience. Okay. Yeah. Again, if a religious person says that I heard God talk to me, I believe them. I don't ask for the experience. I don't ask for evidence for that experience. The evidence part comes from whether what they heard is actually from a God. Because people have those experiences. We know people. We have actual evidence for people having those experiences. We have evidence for people hearing things. We have evidence for people have religious, spiritual experiences. So we know actually, not only don't deny them, we actually have evidence that people have those experiences. So
if I may
validate.
If I may put a fine point on this, okay, and I think what Armin is saying, and just to back up, because I think what you said, maybe I didn't understand. We agree. We don't deny that religious people, like you said, had experienced something. But you said, what you said, Armin, the reason why I interrupted is like that they heard from God, or they had a message from God. We would contest that. We wouldn't contest that they had an experience of receiving a message from God, but we don't believe that it was a message, and we don't believe that it was a God. We believe that they had the experience of a message from God, or whatever it might be. So that's the difference. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak for you, Armin. Please, sorry.
No. That's, you said it better than I said. So we don't invalidate the experiences. We just don't believe what those experiences represent.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me take those words. You don't believe what those experiences represent, but when religious people do that with someone claiming that they don't have any gender, you call them transphobes. So what makes atheists? So aren't atheists bigots when they do the same thing to religious people? I don't want bigotry.
No, because gender is an experience, right? So, for example, if somebody says, "I am somebody who experienced God talking to me," we will like, okay, but I don't know if it's actually God. We will completely accept it, So, but when it comes to identity, so gender, unlike sex, is an identity, and identities are nothing but experiences. So they're not. When they say my gender is like man or woman, they're referring to their experiences. So they're not making any claims beyond what they're experiencing, because that's what our identities are. Yeah. If my identity as like Armin, or a man, or a brother, or a husband, these are just my feelings, my experiences. So given that it's nothing but experiences, it's not. We don't need anything beyond their experiences to believe them.
Xavier, can we take something that's less politically charged and maybe explore that? Because I think it's related. And I mentioned it before. I don't like coffee. You're taking my word that I don't like coffee, right? Do you believe me when I say that coffee tastes disgusting to me?
I believe you.
All right, cool. What evidence am I presenting to you that I believe coffee is disgusting to me?
There's no evidence.
There's no evidence. Well, there's my testimony, right? That I believe that coffee is disgusting to me, right? I think you're kind of accepting it solely upon my testimony, right?
Yeah, but I'm not calling you delusional. Religious people get called delusional for believing, for putting words and symbols to their experiences through religion. They get called delusional. They get called all sorts of things by atheists on this show. And I just
delusional doesn't need to be an insult. If tomorrow I wake up and I hear like the Mahdi or Allah or Jesus talking to me, my first conclusion would be like, okay, I am being delusional. That's not an insult. That would be the most people sometimes have delusions.
Yeah, we know that people have hallucinations, but I think a lot of people, and I can only speak from my experience, that a lot of people who are religious grew up religiously and were told certain facts about the universe, that God exists, that God will judge you, that these are the rules you have to follow. They go to church regularly, or temple or mosque or whatever regularly. It's a part of their life, and they kind of just are on autopilot. A lot of people are on autopilot and they don't question it. I don't think that those people are delusional. I would suggest that those people haven't necessarily questioned the nature of the reality around them. Now, I could be wrong. That's just a hunch. But to the extent that there are atheists on this show and in the world and in the chat, in the comments, who would say that theism is a mental illness, I would say shut the hell up, because it's not. I think it's just, I think you're satisfied for insufficient reasons that a supernatural realm exists. That's as far as I would go, because I see the same evidence and I'm not convinced. That's it.
Yeah, Johnny, to be clear, like, I'm not talking about general religious people. I'm speaking about specifically people who are hearing voices. Okay. And not most religious people are not hearing voices, but because our caller is specifically referring to people who had that experience, and they're telling us they had that experience, we don't say all religious people are delusional, but those people might be having delusions. Okay. Yeah. And that's okay. That's not like having delusions. We don't want to demonize people who are having mental issues. It's not an insult. Like, it might just be something that is happening. They might be hearing voices, which is fine. Yeah. And it's also better if they recognize it. Like, if I admire somebody who's having delusions and is recognizing that these are delusions because there's no evidence for what they're hearing. So that's actually a source of admiration for somebody if they recognize that they're being. It's not an insult. A delusional should not be used as an insult, because mental health should not be used as an insult.
Yeah, and to your point, Xavier, I appreciate that you are not one of these haters that are out there. Even amongst the atheists, there's plenty of haters, and I know, because I read the comments, and I'm saddened by what I see. But do you see how there's a difference? Do you see how we're making a distinction between a person's internal state that only they can report, at least at this point in science, right? We can't tap into the brain and see things. I guess we can look at hormone levels or whatever. I don't know. But there's a difference between the internal state of a person's experience, the cause of that experience, and then a statement about external reality outside of them. That's where we're drawing that line. Because I guess you could always say that transgender people are just lying to us, that they know that they're not really transgender. But then you're starting to get into some problems, I think.
Right. I'm trying to see the distinction. And with those three little criteria, that clarifies a lot. I would just say that religion is part of people's identity. And you say, and so many skeptics demand evidence, or else they assume that there's no evidence, so there's no reason I should believe you unless there's evidence. But religion is part of their identity.
We will accept their identity.
Part of who they are.
We will believe their identity. We will also believe their identity. Right. So if somebody says these are my beliefs and that I'm a Muslim and that's my identity, I'm not going to invalidate that. I'm going to be like, yeah, I believe you. You are a Muslim. I will call you a Muslim if you want me to.
Yeah, but we just don't believe. We just don't believe that it's true. That the claims of that religion is true. That's all.
So to your point, if we wanted to be like transphobic people, right? If somebody says I'm a man and we're like, no, you're not. You're a woman. So the equivalent to that would be somebody coming to me as an atheist and say, I'm a Muslim. Okay. And I say, no, you're not. You're not a Muslim.
Yeah.
That would be the equivalent. That would be the comparison.
Yeah. You don't hold a belief in the reality of Allah. No, you don't.
And we don't do that. We accept them. We're like, you're Muslim.
Yeah. Okay. People say, oh, your beliefs are false. There's no evidence. But if we said that about transgender people, we will be considered transphobic because we're not believing them without evidence.
He also be wrong.
Yeah, no, here's the thing, because do you understand what gender means? Okay, gender is about your experiences, right? So would you believe?
Right.
Okay, so okay, so if somebody told you that I feel as if I'm a man, okay, you don't require evidence for that because they're talking about their feelings, they're talking about their experiences, okay?
Yeah.
So
I
okay, so okay.
Oh,
Okay, good.
real quick. I'm going to interject. Javier, you're a man, right?
Xavier.
I'm a man too.
Yes.
All right, for what it's worth. Okay. What is maleness besides the physiological and the anatomical aspects of maleness that you possess? Culturally speaking, okay? Culturally speaking, what does it mean to you?
To me personally, is to play a certain role in the family, a certain role in society as a provider, as a protector, more testosterone, just a certain type of way, a certain way of being and doing life as compared to the other half of the population. So that's what it means to me.
Okay, that's what it means to you. Now, ignoring the testosterone comment, okay, what if your your body were exactly the same? You had a penis, okay, and testes and all that jazz, vas deferens, and all that stuff. And I'm just taking your definition of maleness, okay, your definition. What if you were born as you were, but those qualities about the relationship and the family, the other side, what if that seemed like it didn't apply to you, like it did not, you weren't in harmony with that, you felt other than that? And it might be hard for you to envision that, because it's actually hard for me to envision what it'd be like to be different from me, but I know that people are, so I just kind of accept it. But what if you were different? What would you call yourself?
I would have to use a different gender. If I felt different than that typical role. And I think religious people also kind of feel that way. They don't belong to this world. They feel like there's something other.
Okay. I think the difference...
We don't invalidate that.
Yeah. We don't invalidate the feeling. We just invalidate dare I go down the J. Mike route, the ontological reality. We do not accept the ontological reality that they actually do belong to that other non-physical existence. We aren't convinced that it exists. But I have religious friends, and I could never tell them they don't believe something. Of course they believe it. Of course they identify themselves with that, right? We just aren't convinced that exists. So we believe that they are mistaken about that, or that there's insufficient reasons to believe that exists, or in some cases that some of the hosts would say, well, you're just wrong, right? But I'm not one of those people, because I don't know.
For another example would be like, imagine if somebody says that I identify as a woman because I feel like a woman. We're like, cool, you are a woman, we will address you like a woman. But if they say, like, let's say they were born with XY chromosome, and they said that because I identify as a woman, I'm going to claim that I was born with XX chromosomes and my chromosomes are XX. We were like, okay, no, because now you're making a claim about objective reality, which your claim does not match. Okay, first you were talking about your feelings and the way you identify, and that is completely, we don't ask for evidence because we just have to accept, we understand people's feeling based on what they're telling us. That's all we need. But now if you take that and make a claim about reality that doesn't match objective reality, then we will like, okay, we need evidence for that.
Yeah. All right, Xavier, I'm going to give you a last bit. Say your piece, but we've got to move on. I think we've gone around in a circle on this one. I want you to think about what we've said, and then maybe do some more thinking about it, and then call back later. I do like it when you call. So last thoughts on you, Xavier, because I trust you.
No, thanks for the clarification. Happy Pride Month to all of you. I just want to say, I hope if there was a religious month, that we would be just as tolerant as that as well. So on both sides. So blessings to you guys.
An interesting idea. Take care, Xavier.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Armin.
I do want to say that, no, I agree with that. One thing that we do is an atheist republic is that we support Muslim rights, Christian rights, Hindu rights, because as much as we are in disagreement with them about their belief, we also don't like them being mistreated. So part of our activism as atheist activists is to speak out when Muslims, for example, as much as we are anti-Islam, we're also pro-Muslim. So, for example, in China, when the government is oppressing Muslims, we speak out against that. In India, when Muslims are being oppressed, we speak out against that. In Bangladesh, when Hindus are being oppressed, we speak out against that. In Egypt, when Christians are being oppressed, we speak out against that. So, yeah, we are completely in agreement in the fact that we as atheist activists are also in support of the rights and support religious people and their rights and their freedoms.
That's the humanist bent on atheism, and not all atheists are humanists. But I know we were talking before the show about what's going on in Iran, and I know that you had some thoughts about that, Armin. You want to share?
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much for letting me do that, because it's surprising to me how so many atheists around the world don't know about this, because what's happening in Iran, and it's still happening, even though the media is not covering it as much, because the initial phases of it is like it's old news now. The revolution in Iran against the Islamic regime is still going on. It's still happening. It might have like died down a little bit, but it's still happening with civil disobedience and other ways people are fighting against the regime. And the reason why you as an atheist might care about this, and I hope like even if you're not an atheist activist, as a human, as a fellow human, you care about this, is because the situation in Iran is getting a lot worse. People are suffering under this regime. They're suffering and things are getting very devastating. The Islamic regime is really bad at managing the economy and a lot of other things, and the economy is suffering. But another reason why atheists might want to pay attention to this is because what the revolution in Iran is and I don't say this lightly, I have evidence to back this up, is the largest secular movement in history. And it's the greatest mass exodus of people out of religion ever in history. We're talking, based on scientifically collected data that we have, we're talking about a country that has more than 85 million people. More than just under half the population has left religion, not Islam, not just Islam, religion as a whole. Like they left Islam and they're no longer Muslim and they're no longer religious at all. In one generation, in less than 40 years, this has never happened anywhere on the planet. In less than 40 years, a country with a population of more than 85 million people have been reporting leaving religion. Close to half the percentage. If I remember correctly, it was 47%. You will not find an example like this anywhere in history and any other country. And here's another thing. So Iran, based on this data, from Gammon Institute, Iran is now a Muslim minority country. A Muslim minority country ruled by an Islamic theocracy. And also, the revolution itself has a lot of anti-religion and anti-Islamic elements. Even though I don't want to completely dismiss the fact that there's also a lot of Muslims involved in this religion, involved in this revolution against the religious authority, against the Islamic authority. And these religious people, these Muslims, want secularism. Even though they're the Muslims themselves, they're fighting for a secular democracy. So I don't want to dismiss the role of Muslims in this revolution, but there's also a major part of this revolution that is not just secular, not just atheistic, not just non-religious, but anti-religious. One of the main symbols of this revolution in Iran that is happening right now is the taking off and burning of the hijab. Right? We have had people who were executed, arrested by the government during the revolution and executed, and they became national heroes because right before they were executed, they told to people to not read the Quran for them and not pray for them when they die, and instead play happy music and be happy. That's Majid Reza Rahnavard, and now he's a national hero. We had a 9-year-old boy who was killed during the protest, who was killed by the government, and his mother during the burial ceremony came out and said with pride that my son Kian Pirfalak hated the Quran, and this is inside Iran, and the thousands of people were in that crowd, and they all cheered. People don't believe that this is happening in Iran. So I just want you to pay attention, because a lot of people are forgetting that this revolution is still happening in Iran. And as atheists and secular activists, they need your support. The atheist movement is a global movement, and I don't want people to just focus on their own country, because this movement would be a lot stronger if we ally with each other across borders. Sorry, I went for too long.
No, that's great. And that really is the truth, is that humanity has spent the last 10,000 years under the spell, you might say, of magical type of thinking. And we are slowly, I would suggest, waking up, or let's say this, we're asking for more. We're asking for more evidence. And I some thinker, I think, who was I reading? Was it James? William James, Henry James. We don't have another 10,000 years of magical thinking in us. It wasn't James, but it's true. We're all in this together. People from other countries, women, men, non-binary people, transgender people. All of us are expecting more from the societies that we're living in, and at some point, there's going to be a tipping point. We're not there. Maybe in Iran, they're coming there. We're not here in the United States, but we need to show support for those people around the world who have it a lot harder than we do here in this country. But